Welcome back to the second episode of the Cork Football Podcast. Thanks for everyone who listened last week, and thanks for tuning in again tonight. I was absolutely overwhelmed with the support I got, and it's given me great impetus going forward. Massive thanks to Kieran Shannon, the Cork Examiner, for the piece he did on Saturday. I'm very grateful for that. And thanks to everyone who emailed me during the week there. There was loads of info and links and audio clips, and they were all very helpful. What I want to do now in this episode, I'm just going to preview the Cork and Louth game, and before that I'm going to review the Cork and Cavan game. I know I said last week that I'd be doing a look back on previous games, but I will do that on a separate video, and hopefully I'll have that out before the weekend. Okay, to Páirc Cavan Sunday. I got a message right after the game, and it said, John, you got best of both worlds. You got the win, but with the torture. I'll tell you, when Cavan went 7 up there, I kind of said to myself, what in the name of God are you after doing here? And my father was after walking out, and he couldn't take any more of it, and I'd have joined him only for this podcast. But they really put us through the ringer. When we went inside after, between the two games, we went straight for the top shelf anyway. And it was a rough one. But look, we got there. Look, before I begin, there's one thing I really want to say is before I do any analysis, I'd like to just to acknowledge the sacrifice that these players make. And just to make sure that they know that we appreciate the commitment they give. It's a second full-time job. They're ordinary people giving us extraordinary service. And look, if they haven't mortgages and families already, they will have, and ourselves or the county board won't be paying them in years to come. So a massive thanks to these guys, the things they do for us in the field. Look, a win is a win, and look, we showed great character. There's plenty other times I've seen Cork and they'd have just thrown in the towel in that situation. And look, Cavan aren't a bad team. A couple of very good players, and that McVitie there, he's an excellent player. Look, I got my preview wrong there last week. Look, from the research I did, and I actually listened to the Cavan podcast there last week. They actually weren't expecting to see him until the middle of the league, but look, he was there and it was Sunday, and we knew he was there. I was kind of debating how to analyse the match, and I think the way I'm going to go at it is I'm just going to do as it happened, and I'll just kind of interject with observations along the way. And look, just let me know down the line if you think this works, and if it doesn't work. Look, there's no TV footage of this game, so I'm probably going to get a couple of details wrong, so just bear with me on that. We lined out as named on Sunday, which is kind of a new thing for this Cork management setup. Cavan, they set up with McKiernan and McVitie in the full forward line, and Madden and Oisin Brady in the half forward line. They were kind of linking. So we got off to a bad start. They had 3 points on in the first 2 minutes. We got caught twice high up the field, backs out of position, and with the kick out malfunction as well. So the 3 points down, 2 minutes gone. Look, we got back level within 8 minutes, and in fairness to them, look, I think it was Colm O'Cannon, Rory Dean and Mark Cronin. Colm O'Cannon got a great catch and he set up Cronin, and we were back level. Cavan take the lead again after 12 minutes, McVitie there again, and it was just becoming obvious straight away at that stage, like that Cavan, their forwards had too much space, we were too passive. The man in possession was just, he had too much room, and that was a feature of our play all day. We kind of hit our stride in maybe with about after that, and Sean McDonald got a lovely 2 point. and he also hit a great turnover inside our half-back line. I think we went down the field, and Mark Cronin, I think he got a free and he took it. But so that was a good recovery after a rocky start. But then again, look, we went back to the old ways again, and passive in defence again, and too much room, and McVitie gets a goal. We were standing off, not engaging, and so we're behind again. Next 10 minutes then was kind of tit for tat. What was really starting to become evident then with Cork is we turn over the ball, we'd go into transition, break at speed up the field, and Cavan defence wouldn't be set, they wouldn't have numbers back. We'd get into kickable positions and we'd get to the edge of the D. We'd do this turning around again, trying to set up our shooters for this perfect opportunity, and we'd go over it back, get turned over. This happened numerous times. Just Rory Dean, Paul Welsh, Rory Maguire, 25, 30 yards out, kickable positions, no pressure on. And look, to me, it looked like they were under instructions not to shoot in those situations. But like Dean and Welsh scored early on, and very, very frustrating to watch it for the supporters. And it seemed to just sap the life out of us as the game went on. Look, we're not playing the percentages at all. When you have opportunities like that, inter-county forwards, they have to be able to take these opportunities. And just too many turnovers trying to work the perfect shot. It just feeds energy to the opposition. We were getting Jai down the sidelines. Fahy and our inside forwards, they got down the sides a few times and worked a couple of lovely scores. So that was a real positive. That was going to keep us in the game, actually. And what was also standing out was that we weren't winning any breaking ball around the middle. And this has been a persistent issue for this Cork team the last couple of years. Look, I know it's grand to say breaking ball is a lottery, but you can only be unlucky for so long, and there's something wrong there. I think it was 32 minutes before we got our hands on a breaking ball. And the one thing I'm not seeing is on our kickouts, we don't seem to have a dedicated man with back to our goal that's sweeping for breaks. And look, I'm sure the management know this, and it just needs to be rectified because we have to get that right. Hurley really started motoring then towards the end of the half. He got a point and a 2-pointer just before half time. Great kick. Hurley played well, I think. So the 2 points lead going into the half time. I'd be happy enough with that, considering the 3 points that we conceded early on and a kind of a cheap goal. So I was very happy with the inside forwards. I thought they were working really hard, and they seemed to be they were seemed to be going well. I was very happy with them. Backs as a unit, I just didn't think they were functioning well. Sean Brady, he was having a very tough time on McVitie. Look, he's a tricky character. Brady will learn a lot from Sunday because I think, look, I suppose it's his second season. He's kind of probably a bit over dependent on his speed, and it gets him out of a lot of trouble, and he doesn't really have to work on dealing with crafty guys like that. But so when you're dealing with a crafty forward like that, like, they'll take speed out of the equation, and he'll learn as he's going forward. And that was a good learning kind of a lesson for him there Sunday. So we're into the second half then, and we got 3 points up. Luke Fahy, in fairness, Luke Fahy, he's been great since he's come back. He was a big loss there. He great when he came onto the scene. He fitted in perfectly, but he did very well Sunday. Again, we're too passive in defence. McVitie sets up McKiernan for a long range kick, and then we cough up a 2-pointer for not handing back the ball, which I thought was very harsh. I don't know, look, the referee seemed to take a long time to decide. I don't know who was actually calling it, but at the end of the day, we gave up the 2 points from the free that resulted. So Rory Dean wins a break, and it gets turned over straight away. Cavan are leading 112 to 14 points. McDonald then, he had a great run, and he's through on goal. I thought his arm was pulled back, and look, that seems to be kind of nearly being left go as a kind of a legitimate tackle now these days. But we still thought it was a penalty, but look, we didn't get it. And then we go into a really bad spell. Again, we're not shooting in good positions. We're doing this kind of recycling the ball, getting up, turned over carrying, and it's really it's a bad spell for us. And on top of that, then Cavan start going along with the kickouts. You had McKiernan, he was after coming up to centre forward at this stage, big man. So he's coming in at pace on top of our ball winners in the middle of the field, and they're like sitting ducks. He's cleaning up in the kickouts, and look, I suppose that needs to be stopped at source, or halfback or whoever's on him. By any means, like fair or foul, you can't allow him a runway like that. It just can't happen. You have to slow him down when he's coming out the ball like that. Cavan scored a second goal. Then look, it was a good goal, well taken, great bit of skill by McVitie there. He dummied Sean Brady, I think it was, and we get completely opened up. Rory Maguire, then that was the first substitution. He went off. Brian O'Driscoll goes centre back. Matty Taylor to wing back. Matty does well. He's a fair warrior in fairness. But we're still under fierce pressure on the long kickouts. Cavan, they're either catching clean or flicking a man. Ian Maguire then replaces Sean Welsh. I suppose, in fairness, I thought Welsh had a good game. He worked hard, carried well in transition, and look, I suppose if he'd Colin O'Cannon's shooting ability, he'd be the full package. But look, that's something to be worked on. Dara Sheedy then replaces Rory Dean. Look, Dean worked hard as expected, but he looked back in this game and he'll just ask himself why he wasn't taking on these shots. Like, these are shots that he wouldn't think twice about taking on if he was playing with Bantry. And this kind of hesitancy in attack then just becomes contagious. And you could see the confidence just draining, and it's like you even had Sean McDonald there. He normally confident shooter. He doesn't shoot, gets caught for overcarrying, and look, it's something we have to rectify if we're building towards challenging for an All-Ireland in, say 2029, 2030. We have to ditch this culture of fear and attack. And it looks like it's some sort of a system, and the players are nearly programmed to have no situational awareness, and it seemed like they have to set up this high percentage perfect shot. That was fine. Look, in the old rules, Dublin did it for years. They did that, but look, with the new rules, teams don't have the players back, so you have a lot more freedom to take on these shots, and we just have to go for it, or we're at nothing. There's no team winning All-Irelands with playing with that type of fear. Look, players with the head down, carrying towards the 2-point arc, and there's players making great runs inside, and they're just they're not being seen. But actually, at one stage, the second half there, towards the end of the match, Ian Maguire under, say, what the old covered stand, he's running in past the 2-point mark. His clubmate, who he should be in sync with, Stephen Sherlock, runs off his shoulder, expecting the pass to go for the 2-pointer. Maguire keeps lumbering towards the goal. The crowd goes crazy, and Maguire realises then he turns back, but sure, by the time Sherlock gets the ball, then the chance is gone. And it's just, look, it's situational awareness where it's just not happening for us. And that's going to have to be rectified. Things at this stage then, they are spiraling, and it's mostly self-inflicted. We lose another kick out, and geez, at this stage it's like Ian Maguire, he cleans out his own man in the air, and Colin O'Callaghan comes down and his finger is injured. Like, it's real suicide stuff. We get caught for a 3-up, and Cavan go up by 7, so it's looking really bad. Then Dara Sheedy, he starts getting on a lot of ball, and he sets up Sherlock for a 2-pointer. That was the first 2-pointer Sherlock had, and Shanley comes on for Brady. I think that could have happened sooner. Just, it did steady the ship a small bit. Like, I know the game was swinging anyway, but I think that switch should have happened sooner. Brian O'Driscoll, he puts in a great through ball. Cronin wins it and converts the free. We're still 4 down though, and looks a long road back. Sheedy kicks a wide, and it's still not looking likely that we're going to do it. A kick out then drops down on Ian Maguire all alone, and a ball he should catch easily, he decides to punch it for some reason, and luckily enough it goes to a teammate. We get into the attack, Cronin lands another free. So, and I think at that stage the refs seemed to be giving us the breaks. I don't know, was it the crowd or what? The crowd was coming in, and there was a lot of noise. I think he was giving us very little up to then, but he did give us the rub of the green after that. McDonald wins another great turnover, and Chris Oak scores his first point. And in fairness to Chris Oak, he worked tirelessly. He did loads of unselfish runs. No reward, just wasn't being seen. And at this stage then, Sheedy is flying. Look, great young fella. But the thing about him is the composure in possession. I noticed that with him at Killarney. And that's like, composure is, for a young fella like that, you don't see it too often. And he works a shooting opportunity, and we get, I think it was him, but I think he won the last free. I could be wrong there, but Stephen Sherlock nails it in for the 2-pointer to win. It's not over. We get position from the kick out. Again, Sheedy gets on the ball, shows great maturity in possession in the dying moments, and I think he gets a ball to O'Callaghan. Like other fellas there, they could start doing, you don't know what they do, but Hooter goes, and we're delighted, obviously. But look, Sheedy, as I said, he was outstanding after coming in. But look, it would be a mistake to start him next Sunday. We have to resist the temptation to do that. He's a great sub to have. He adds huge energy and composure, and he'll just have to bide his time. Look, down the road, he's going to be an automatic starter. We had a kind of a thing like this there a few years ago with David Buckley. He was playing very well in McGrath Cup, and they took him up to Belly Buffet, started him centre forward, and he got eaten alive in a league game by Donegal, and he was hardly seen since. And that was unfair on him that day. I thought, look, we had players there, like I remember that day, John O'Rourke was on the bench. He would have been ideal for that. Throwing in a young fella like that. We have to manage developing young players like that way better. It's critical. Same for Sherlock. Look, the media will be saying after the game, oh yeah, why wasn't he starting? And he has to start against Louth. But look, every player wants to start. Anyone that ever throw in a jersey, they want to be on the first 15. But, excuse me, I'd hope that Stephen Sherlock and the management will see, look, where he adds most value. And you have to realise that in a tight game, the value of each score, it becomes exponential. And that's as the game progresses. And look, the backs become tired. That's when he can do his stuff. Had he started that game, he would not have been there for that vital period in the end. You know, so look, and another thing is, right, fair enough, the oppositions, they're going to wise up to that and they'll have fresh men on him. But if you notice the last day, chances and space started opening up for us inside the right corner forward area, because Cavan were overloading under, say, the old covered stand to try and combat Sherlock 2-point threat. And look, that's a thing that was another positive of him coming on. And look, I was trying to find a kind of a real life analogy then for that situation, for the Sherlock situation. And what I could kind of come up with, look, a brain surgeon, he doesn't go up to the ward and wheel the patient down on the trolley down to the operating theatre. He's there for the specialist precision work when it needs to be done. Look, and Sherlock is like that. He's just a master craftsman, and we just need him there for at that vital time. Like, so that was kind of the game as it worked out. Just go through a few negatives and a few positives. Look, the hesitancy to shoot in good positions, having transitioned at pace. I don't know, it just can't continue. It's soul destroying for the team and for the supporters. You can see why people get so frustrated at that. We lost too many long kickouts in the third quarter, and that was mainly down to not preventing Cavan, that centre forward, from getting the runway into that. Okay, this is something that, look, it's what I'd say is our centre back issue. Question here is, do we persist with Rory Maguire? I have a lot of sympathy in him because that's a tough specialist position, and like the thing is, the top guys who play there, like the John Small, Conor Coonan in his day, Liam Harnan, Eamon Fitzmaurice, they made it look easy because they were so suited to that position. What I'd say is, Maguire isn't. He's I remember he came on the scene first, like I think he got an All-Star nomination that first year he was there. But the centre back role, the new rules have changed everything. The centre back role now is a marking role, and you see what Kerry did last year. I mentioned that last week, and before you had protection in numbers back, and now you don't. So you need to be a man marker. No, it's grand. We can be outlining all the problems, but what are the solutions? I said last week we don't have an obvious candidate, but right, these are the options I'd see. We can Daniel O'Mahony, he's needed at fullback. The new rules again, look, man marking is a premium, so I don't know. People were saying Daniel O'Mahony go to centre back, Shanley or Tommy Walsh to fullback. I think that's too risky. You could swap Maguire and Brian O'Driscoll, but I think the problem with that, then you're losing Brian O'Driscoll going forward, and like he gives unbelievable impetus going forward. So the other option then would be Sean Meehan. I thought at this stage that he'd nearly be a fixture at centre back, but he was a brilliant under 20. He's injured at the moment. He doesn't seem to be in the picture. Hopefully he'll have a return, and he'll be an option. My preference would be, I would put Tommy Walsh at centre back. I'd move Maguire to wing back. I'd push Brian O'Driscoll forward to wing forward. Shanley into the corner. And I just think, I know it's a lot of moves, but I think it tweaks the setup in the right direction. Rory Maguire is too good a player not to have in the plans. So I would give him another go at wing back. I think that would suit him a lot better. I think Brian O'Driscoll, he offers more of a scoring threat in the half forward line, and more of a scoring threat than Rory Deane or Paul Walsh. And Shanley is an out and out defender. I think he's probably more suited to the corner than Tommy Walsh. Tommy Walsh is more suited to out the field. I'd like to see him trying that. I don't think it's going to happen next Sunday, and I'll come on to that. But the positives then. Look, the first positive we brought variation to our kick out, which last year we were just very one-dimensional. We were just going off to the sideline nearly long with all the time, and Kerry absolutely went to town on us there. I think it was the second game we played them last year. We got I think it was 50% return on our own kick out against Kerry. We got I think it was Sunday, we got 72%. The split on that, then, I think the 72% on its own isn't great information, but the split on that, on the long kickouts, we got 60% and 85% on the short. And look, obviously that's why Doyle has been preferred to Martin. He has a better range of kick out. He had a few hairy moments, but that will improve. And the one thing I was impressed with him is how fast he got off the kickouts. Like, geez, you hadn't time to look around, and the ball was out again. And another thing is that variation of kick out, it takes huge pressure off the midfielders, and that's vital. And that brings me on to Conor O'Callaghan. And I think, look, I don't think we appreciate how good this man is. And how lucky we are to have him. Look, if there was a transfer market in the morning, he'd be up there with Clifford. I remember seeing him there. I think it was the under-20 final that we won in Portlaoise against Dublin. We were dead and buried. Just, I think, maybe about 20 minutes into that game, Dublin were ripping us apart. I don't know what, they were up 10 points or something like that. And the last 10 minutes of the first half, basically a solo effort. He was unreal. He dragged us back into that game on his own. But just come back to him there. The one worry I would have about him is the the workload that's on his shoulders. He's putting out fires all over the field, and you need him for a full game, and I don't think he can sustain that. I think what might be a thing that we could try with him is, I think maybe around the 45-minute mark, like when we're bringing in a midfielder anyway, I think it mightn't be any harm to push Colm O'Callaghan into the full forward line for 10 minutes, and leave him there for 10 minutes. I think then what you'll be doing is you'll be replacing, say, the likes of Sean Walsh then, when Sherlock is coming on, and Colm O'Callaghan will be going back out to midfield. And this would serve two functions, I think. Look, it would give O'Callaghan the breather that he'd need for just to set him up for the last 15 minutes. And I think in that 10 minutes inside there, I think we need that variation of being able to maybe land in a few long balls into him. I think he'd create havoc inside there. And another positive there Sunday was obviously, look, I mentioned to Brian Dara Sheedy already. That was a big positive, and just basically our subs in general, like we seem to be able to bring on good subs. Cavan, their subs really didn't do anything from. Our fitness and conditioning it won the game Sunday. You go back a few years ago there, look, we're not at the races in that respect, and I think now at this stage we're up at the level of the top teams. And look, that took a couple of years to get to that, but that's what it does. I think we're there now. So that's the kind of the review there. I'll just go on now to the Louth game on Sunday. We're going up to RD on Sunday, meeting the Leinster champions. We've seen enough of Louth there over the last couple of years, and they give us a lot of trouble always. Always tight games. They're tough crowd, well organised. A couple of very good players there, Sam Mulroy, Kieran Lennon. They had a good win above an Offaly Sunday. I think they scored 21 points. Mulroy only got 1 of that, I think. And so that indicates that they seem to be, they have a bigger range of scores than they usually would. He'd usually be getting maybe a third, maybe to a half of their scores. But, and also they had a very good under-20 team last year. They went to an All-Ireland final, so there'll be a lot of positivity up there. And I think we lost our last 2 games up there. RD is a tight pitch, crowd are right on the pitch, so it's going to be a right dogfight. And it's probably wouldn't expect as many turnovers than the last day. They'll be a lot more careful in possession. Cavan were a bit sloppy, I think. So we won't be transitioning into space as easily, and we probably have to rely on our forward set plays. And like, there's a time and place for that, and I think it will be next Sunday. Working in our forwards into the right positions, and that will come into play Sunday. Kickouts are going to be huge, so that's why I don't think that they're going to play around with what I was mentioning there about the changing around at centre back. I think Paul Walsh and Rory Dean are going to stay there, and or possibly Sean Welsh to go half forward. I don't know. It's going to be a day for big men anyway, and look, if we win up there on Sunday, it'll be massive. We have a 2-week break after that. We'll be going to Offaly then. Look, Offaly is a game we should be winning. We're well capable of winning up there. That sets us up for Meath and Páirc Uí Chaoimh. We'd have 6 points going into that game, and we'd be heading for Meath then looking for 8 points, 8 out of 8. We'd be well set up. So that's the preview there. I'll be going to RD Sunday, so if any of you see a madman up there talking into his phone a lot, that'll be me. So, look, we'll sign off there, and thanks for listening. Now, look, what I'd ask you is, if you're listening to this on YouTube, just do me a favour. It really will help to get the video pushed out there. Just like the video, subscribe to the channel. I think you have to just hit the channel icon. It'll take you into the channel page, and just subscribe. And when you're in there, then just hit the notification bell, and that'll just alert you when there's any future episodes. So look, thanks very much for listening, and good night. And hopefully I'll have another video out there before the end of the week, as I said, on the 84, 85 and 86 Munster finals. So God bless. Thanks.